What's up out there in the www, whatever many W's there are, world? This is test 3 review. um, Numbers 1 through 4 are these functions. Well, I hope I can talk better than this throughout the whole thing. Number 1 is, look, I'm going to give you the answers on these. I don't want you wasting your time on this. Would this be a function? Yes. Remember the vertical line? This is the x-axis and the y-axis. Remember the vertical line test? Does a vertical line anywhere on here cross the graph in more than one place? No, it does not. So the answer to this one is, excuse me, yes. Number 1. Number 2 is a parabola opening this way. Now, y-axis, x-axis. Can you draw a vertical line anywhere and it cross the excuse me, the graph in more than one place? Yeah, crosses here and here. So is this a function? No. Okay, what if you have this? Number 3 is if you have a set of numbers 1 comma 3 2 comma 4 3 comma 5. Is this a function? Yes. Remember, all you do is look for the x's. And do they repeat? No, they do not. So yes, this will be a function. Number 4 is basically the same thing, except we have, if you have 1 comma 3, 2 comma 4, 1 comma 5. Do the x's repeat? Yeah, they repeat here and here. Now, if they do repeat, just make sure the y is the same number, and it is not. The y's are not the same, so this is not a function. Okay, the next bunch of these is evaluate in lowest terms. Number 5. Square root of negative 100. Remember, several months ago when we had this, it was undefined. Now we have a way of dealing with this. And it is, this pen doesn't look like it's very dark. Let me use this. See if this is any better. Now remember, when you've got a negative on the outside, this equals lowercase I times the square root of 100. Right? Right. Just bring the I out when you've got a negative here. Now what's the square root of 100? Plus or minus 10. And don't forget the I. Number 6 is the square root of negative 32. Now what we want to do is factor the 32 where one of the factors is a perfect square. Now let's go ahead and take out the I. Square root of 32. So that is I times the square root of 16 times 2. 16 is a perfect square. So this would equal 4 plus or minus 4 I times the square root of 2. Okay, the square root of 16 is 4. Of course, the i's already there. The square root of 2 is we don't know and we don't care. number 7 is 5 plus 2i times 5 minus 2i. What do we have here? A nice pretty conjugate. Now remember, when you have a conjugate, all you really have to do, you don't have to do the distributive property here, because we know that a distributive property, the linear term, the middle term, will be eliminated when you have a conjugate. So we're going to multiply the 5 and the 5 and the 2i and the 2i. 5 times 5 is 25, and a positive 2i times a negative 2i is a negative 4i squared, because remember, I times I is I squared. Now we know what the value of I squared is. I squared, remember, is negative 1. So we have 25 minus 4 times negative 1, which equals 25. Negative 4 times a negative 1 is a positive 4. So this equals, if my arithmetic is right, 29. Okay, number 8. The distance between the 2 points. Now the distance formula, lowercase d, is equal to the square root of y2 minus y1 closed squared plus x2 minus x1 closed squared. So what is the distance between the 2 points? Negative 6 comma negative 8 and 4, 2. Okay, remember, these are always in the form xy. This is the first coordinate, so we're going to call it x1 and y1. This is the second coordinate, so we call it x2 and y2. But it doesn't make any difference. This can be x1 and y1 also. So we have the square root of y2 is 2 minus y1 minus a minus 8 makes it a plus 8 closed squared plus x2 is 4 minus, the formula says subtract, x1 is negative 6, that makes that a positive 6 closed and squared. This equals the square root of 2 plus 8 is 10 squared plus 10 squared equals 200. 10 squared is 100. 10, and again, 10 squared is 100. Okay, so again, we want to to factor this into 2 numbers where one of them is a perfect square. Obviously, it's 100, right? So it's a square root of 100 times 2. Square root of 100 is 10. That's not plus or minus here because this is distance, remember. So it's 10 times the square root of 2. And that's all there is to it. Wasn't that fun? Now get you a drink of Diet Coke. Right in lowest terms. So if you have, you thought factoring was going away, didn't you? Don't think so. X squared minus 2x minus, stupid boy, 15 over x squared minus x minus Twinkie. Okay. What are the factors of 15 that combine together to give us negative 2? Well, obviously it's 3 and 5. That's going to be x plus 3 times x minus 5 over. Now here, what are the factors of, excuse me, negative 20 that combine together to give us negative 1? So this is x minus 5 times x plus 4. The x minus 5's cancel, and we're left with x plus 3 over x plus 4. Number 10. Write the equation EQU8. Write the equation of the line. And the equation of the line is in the form y equals mx plus b. Okay, if you're given that the slope is negative 5 through the point THRO, through the point 2, 4. Now, what are we given here? We're given the slope and a point. So what are we going to do? We're going to use, oddly enough, point slope. And what is the point slope formula? Y minus y1 equals m open x minus x1. Okay, so we have y minus y1 is 4 equals m, our slope, which is negative 5, open x minus 2. When you get to this point, you say, ask yourself, say, self, what can I do here? Now we can do the distributive property here. So we get y minus 4 equals negative 5x plus 10. Negative 5 times negative 2 is a positive 10. Add 4 to each side. We get y equals negative 5x plus 14. Right? Right. Number 11. Same thing. Write the equation of the line. But what if you're given 2 points? If you're given 2 points, let's say 8, 5, and 10, 9. Now again, what they're going to say is write the equation of the line through these points. What is it that we can do from 2 points? Basically, the only thing you can do here is slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, always in the form xy. This is the first point, so we call it x1, y1, x2, and y2. So what's y2? 9 minus 5, y2, y1, over 10 minus 8, x2, I'm sorry, yeah, x2 and x1. So now it's just arithmetic. 9 minus 5 is 4 over 2. So our slope here is 2. Now what do we have? We have 2 points and slope. So we're going to again use the point slope formula, which I gave you before. So y minus we can use either point we want. Let's use this one. The numbers are a little easier. Y minus 5 equals m, which is our slope, x minus 8. Okay, y minus 5. Okay, now we do distributive property. So we have y minus 5 equals 2x minus 16. Is that right? Add 5 to each side. Hope y'all appreciate this. I'm doing this on Saturday morning. Yeah, I know my life is pathetic. Equals 2x minus 11. Okay? Okay. Number 12. Combine like terms. I think it's time for another slug of Diet Coke. Okay. We can't factor anything here in because well, 15 is not a prime number, but 11 is. So we can't do anything there. However, remember, like terms they have to have the same number under the same radicand. That's the number underneath the square root symbol, radical. Okay, so these are like terms. This is not. So we have 5 and 4 is 9 times the square root of 11 minus 9 square root 15. Can we combine these two things? No, not like terms. Remember, the index has to be the same. There's a 2 in there, we just don't write it. So that's all we can do there. Number 13, 5 times the square root of 8 plus 7 times the square root of 19. 19, stupid boy, 18, I'm sorry. I'll do better. Okay, can we factor the 8 into something that's a perfect square? Yes. 4 times 2 plus 7 times the square root of 9 times 2. Now the square root of 4 is 2. Remember, everything in here is multiplication, and here. So it's going to be 2 times 5 square root 2 plus 3 times 7. Square root of 9 is 3 square root 2. So this equals 10 square root 2 plus, what is it, 21? So it equals 10 and 2 is 10 and 21 is 31 square root 2. These are like terms because the radicands are the same and the indices are the same. 14. Okay. 5 minus the square root of 11 times 5 plus square root of 11. It's a conjugate. So again, all we have to do is multiply the first numbers and the second numbers. 5 times 5 is 25. Now remember, if you multiply the same number into the radical just goes away. This is actually 121. And what's the square root of 121? 11. So minus 11 equals 14. Okay? 15. Evaluate by rationalizing, rationalizing the denominators. Okay? Okay. Remember, we cannot have an irrational number in the denominator. So if we have 8 divided by the square root of 2, remember this is, okay? We cannot have an irrational number in the denominator. Boy, that sounds nasty to me. Multiply by, how do we get rid of this? Multiply it by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. The square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2 is 1. So we're not changing the value of this any, just the look. So this is 8 times square root of 2 over, and again, when we multiply the same number under the radical just goes away. So it's divided by 2. Now we can reduce this fraction. This is 4 square root 2. Okay, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Right? Right. Okay. Now the next one's a little bit more involved, but really not any more difficult. This is number 16. Oh yeah, I knew that. If we have 11 divided by 5 minus the square root of 7. Okay, so this is 11 over 5 minus square root 7. So how do we get rid of this? We have to use the conjugate. So we're going to multiply this by, what's the conjugate of this? 5 plus the square root of 7. 5 plus the square root of 7. Why did I cram that up there at the top? Now there's no, excuse me. Okay. First of all, 11 times this misery over here is 55 square root of 7. What am I doing here? Okay, let me rewrite this over here. 11 over 5 minus the square root of 7 times 5 plus the square root of 7. 5 plus the square root of 7. So we have to multiply 11. We have to use the distributive property here. So this is 55 plus 11 square root of 7 over. Now remember, when you have a conjugate, multiply the first numbers and the last numbers, and that's all you have to do. So we have 25 minus square root of 7 times square root of 7 is the square root of 49, and the square root of 49 is 7. Remember, the radical just goes away here. So we have 55 plus 11 square root of 7 over, what is it, 18? And there we have it. Looks real hard, but it's really not. Get you a sip of Diet Coke now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, the next one. The next one is calculate the axis of symmetry and the vertex. Now remember, quadratics are always in the form, I know always is a long time, but ax squared plus bx plus c. Now the axis of symmetry is x will equal negative b over 2a. Okay, so if we have this, if we have 4x squared minus 16x plus 11, there's the a, there's the b, and we really don't care about the c right now. Here is our, okay, so the axis of symmetry is going to be negative b, negative 16, all over 2 times a, 2 times 4. So this is 16 over 8 is 2. Remember, that's our x. Now, how are we going to find out the y? Because remember, our the vertex has to be in the form xy. So all we do is we plug in 2, and remember, this is actually y equals. So y is going to equal 2 times, now x is 2, so wherever there's an x, we're going to plug in the number 2. Stupid boy. So our y is going to equal 4 times 2 squared, right, wherever there's an x, minus 16 times 2 plus 11. Now you can plug this into your calculator and it'll spit out the answer for you. 2 squared is 4, so 4 times 4 minus 32 plus 11. So 16 minus 32 plus 11 is, let's see, it's 16, negative 5, I think. Now that's our y. So what is the vertex? The vertex is xy, where x is 2, or y is negative 5. And that's the vertex. Remember, the vertex is the top or bottom of the parabola. Number, what was that? 17. 18 is evaluate the complex fraction. So if we have this, if we have 7 over 5 plus 2 over 3 divided by 1 over 9 plus 1 over 4. Now remember, we cross multiply here. 3 times 7 is 21 plus, excuse me, 5 times 2 is 10. And this is how we get a common denominator. We multiply these two numbers over 15. Divided by, same thing, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 9 over 36. So this equals 31 over 15 divided by 13 over 36, I think. Now, how do we divide fractions? We don't. We multiply by the reciprocal of this. So this is going to equal 31 over 15 times, now we flip these two over, 36 over 13, which is 116 over 195. If you were to reduce this, it would be 372 over 16. I don't care whether you reduce it or not. Okay. 19. Solve the quadratic. X minus 5 all squared equals 7. So how do we undo the square? Square root. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. So this is going to equal x minus 5. When you take the square root of a square, the radical goes away and the square goes away. So we have x minus 5 equals the square root of 7. So now what do? Add 5 to each side. So x equals 5 plus or minus, you have to have the plus or minus, square root of 7. Number 20. Last one. Sorry to use these things, but I'm running out of time here. Now the quadratic equation is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is an a here, not a 9. Okay, so if you have x squared minus 2x minus 15 ax squared b and c. So we have negative, okay, so we have negative b So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of, again, b squared. B is negative 2 all squared minus 4 times a is 1, times c, which is negative 15, all over 2 times a. Okay, so this is negative and negative 2 is positive 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared is 4, positive 4, minus 4 times all this misery here is 60. Okay, negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 15 is 60 all over 2. I'm going to move this down here. So we have 2 plus or minus the square root of 64 over 2. So we have this. We have 2 plus 8 over 2, okay, plus or minus, which equals 10 over 2, which is 5. And we have 2 minus 8 over 2, which is, was that negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. And we put this in brackets, which, and the smallest number first, negative 3 comma 5. That's it. Whoops, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye, bonds.